Hi, this is Benno, the founder of Polartours. We are in Antarctica at the moment, and I wanted to take a moment to tell you what a typical day on board, let me take off these sunglasses, what a typical day on board looks like. So, depending a bit on the day and the weather, this is important to keep in mind. The weather always dictates anything on these expedition cruises. But typically wake-up call would be around 6:30, 7 or so in the morning. Then you would be called to get breakfast, typically buffet style. And depending a bit on the ship size, so let's use the Ocean Victory, our ship on this excursion as an example. The ship has 160 passengers and we are maxed out for this departure, so 160 passengers would then typically be divided into, say, 4 groups of passengers, simply to facilitate an easier landing. On board of our group, the ships are called red, green, blue and yellow. And for example, today then the green group was called first, then the red group, and the blue group, and then the yellow group, separated by about half an hour. So green group boards first, meaning you after breakfast would be then called, go to the mat room, gear up, which consists of your jacket of course, warm underlaying layers, your life vest, and you would then board through the mudroom and you would go to the Zodiac and then go on a short Zodiac ride, followed by a landing. A landing, such as this one, for example, takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours, again, depending on the weather, and would typically consist of walkings, for example, to a penguin rookery, like here. Here in the background, I don't know if you can see this on this video, we have a bunch of Adelie penguins nesting. But also a landing can be just a hike up to a small mountain, for example here. And again, depending a bit on the weather and on whether how many penguins are in the region, you might get to roam around more or less freely, or like in this case only you would have to stick to some paths in order not to disturb the penguins. Then after you come back on board, typically you're greeted with a bunch of refreshments, drinks, hot chocolate for example. Or if you've not done the Zodiac cruising before the landing, you might get to do that after the landing. Then lunch follows, and in the afternoon, sometimes also during lunch you would continue to cruise, and then in the afternoon another landing follows, followed by a Zodiac cruise, and then typically in the afternoon the groups are switched around. So in our case this morning it was green and red, and then yellow and blue, and then it would be switched around. So you'd do yellow and blue first, and then red and green. So this is how you spend your days in Antarctica. Your expedition cruise team is always going to get you off board as much as possible, of course, again, depending on the weather. Cruising is typically done during the evening, during the night. So you get the maximum of time out of your days here in Antarctica. Then in the evening, dinner is served, and typically after dinner, you would get a short recap of what we saw during the day, of what might be coming up in the next days. And then there are lectures so scientific lectures. Most of the guides on board are also scientists and have studied various subjects such as penguins, for example, or whales, or global warming. Just yesterday we had a history lesson on the history of Antarctic exploration, Charcot and Shackleton, and the race to the pole, etc., etc. So there is a whole lot of activities every day. Even during the day crossings, you will have plenty of things to learn and lectures on board. And I would really recommend you make the most use of this and attend all the lectures. They're super interesting. So I hope this gets a bit the idea across of what a typical day on board looks like. If you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to write us at service@polartours.com, and we are looking forward to hearing from you. Greetings. Now let's check out those penguins.